Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking some really fascinating source material that asks a massive, provocative question. Is artificial intelligence fundamentally rewiring human cognition? Look, we all know AI promises to give us superpowers at work and in life, but the research we're diving into today suggests it might actually be slowly hollowing out our brains in the process.
Okay, let's dive into this with a really quick mental test. I want you to think back to, say, about 10 years ago. How many phone numbers did you have easily memorized? You probably had your parents' numbers, your best friends, maybe 5, 6, or even 8 numbers locked in without even trying, right? Now, be honest. How many do you actually remember today without pulling out your phone? For most of us, it's a genuine struggle to recall even 1 or 2.
And that stark contrast right there highlights a major cognitive shift. Think about it. A decade ago, we actively memorized phone numbers, and we actually navigated using physical city landmarks just to get through our day. Fast forward to today, and we rely completely on saved contacts in Google Maps. It's totally frictionless now, which is great, sure. But the source material makes a really compelling argument here. This total removal of mental effort is literally physically altering how our brains adapt to technology.
So there's actually a scientific name for this. It's called digital amnesia, or the Google effect. This was documented back in a famous 2011 study by Betsy Sparrow. What's really interesting about this slide is it shows that if our brains know a piece of information is easily accessible online, they literally just stop wasting the precious energy required to store it. Instead of remembering the actual fact, you just remember where to find it. You remember the website, not the answer. Crazy, right?
So that brings us to Section 1, your brain on AI, and the hard scientific evidence behind all of this.
To really grasp what's at stake here, let's talk about the number 25,000. In this landmark study published way back in the year 2000, researchers actually scanned the brains of London taxi drivers. Now, this was before the era of GPS, so these drivers had to manually memorize roughly 25,000 chaotic, winding streets just to navigate the city. And the result of that intense mental effort? It's mind-blowing. Their hippocampus, that's the brain region responsible for navigation, episodic memory, and even future imagination, was physically, measurably larger than the average person's. By doing the hard mental work, they literally built stronger neural pathways.
And this brilliantly illustrates the flip side of the coin when we look at a recent EEG study that monitored brain activity during essay writing. The researchers split people into 3 groups. Group 3, who used absolutely no tools, showed the highest brain activity and had full recall of what they wrote. Group 2, using regular Google search, showed moderate activity. But Group 1, the group using ChatGPT, they showed the absolute lowest brain activity. In fact, the AI group exhibited this heavy reliance on just copy-pasting, and over the course of the months-long research, they completely struggled to even recall their own essay topics. Their brains basically just switched off.
We are seeing the exact same pattern play out in the corporate world, too. A 2025 study by Microsoft and Carnegie Mellon looked at 319 knowledge workers, and they found a really clear negative correlation. A higher reliance on AI was directly linked to lower critical thinking skills. The researchers pointed out that workers who leaned super heavily on AI started showing weakened independent problem-solving abilities. They became really good at prompting the AI, sure, but terrible at actually solving complex problems themselves.
Moving right along to Section 2, the value of friction. Let's look at the biology versus the convenience of it all.
The core argument we need to understand here is deeply biological. Our human brain makes up only about 2% of our total body mass, but it hogs a massive 20% of our energy. Because of this, evolution basically designed us to be cognitive misers. We are hardwired to adopt work-saving technologies just to conserve that energy. But here is the catch. Our neural networks physically require friction. They need struggle, they need mistakes, and they need challenge to learn. Without that friction, the source argues, our brains simply cannot build new connections.
Now, you might be thinking, come on, isn't this just the classic historical panic over new tech? I mean, Socrates literally thought writing books would destroy our memory. And educators in the 1970s completely panicked over pocket calculators. But the source material makes a crucial distinction. Generative AI is fundamentally different from a calculator or a book, because it entirely removes the cognitive friction required for learning. It doesn't just help you calculate, it does the actual thinking process for you.
Which leads us straight into Section 3, the grunt work paradox.
So the crucial point the source makes here revolves around something called grunt work. We're talking about those repetitive, boring, but mentally demanding tasks. Think about a student writing a rough draft from scratch, or an employee summarizing a massive stack of legal documents. While totally tedious, the author argues that this grunt work is the fundamental training ground for building complex mental models. When we automate all this boring stuff away, the massive concern is that we are stealing the exact process young professionals and students use to actually gain deep expertise.
And that creates this massive, glaring paradox. If you bypass the fundamentals because the AI did all the grunt work for you, how on earth are you going to verify the AI's final output? Even if AI makes you 100 times more efficient, catching its hallucinations or reviewing its code requires deep, foundational knowledge. The source asks a really tough question. If you never learn those first principles through your own struggle, how can you possibly be trusted to catch those mistakes?
This brings us to our final part, Section 4, Training Your Brain. Let's look at the proposed solutions.
First off, the source acknowledges the reality of the modern world. Completely boycotting AI is just unrealistic. The productivity gains are way too massive, and ignoring it means you're going to fall behind in the global economy. Not to mention, big tech companies are incredibly happy to profit from your dependence on their tools. So the proposed solution is entirely personal. You have to actively treat your brain like a muscle. The guiding philosophy here is as old as time. Use it or absolutely lose it.
The author uses this fantastic biological metaphor comparing it to physical fitness. Think about it. We happily take the escalator at the mall for convenience, to save our physical energy, but we still purposefully go to the gym to struggle with heavy weights just to maintain our bodies. The source suggests we need to view cognitive fitness in the exact same way. Use AI like an escalator for workplace efficiency, but you must intentionally engage in mental gym sessions to maintain your baseline intelligence.
To help with this, the creator of the source material actually built a platform called AI Fiesta with specific brain training modules. They propose dedicating just 10 minutes a day to 4 specific cognitive pillars to intentionally rebuild that mental friction. We're talking math, doing rapid mental calculations without a screen, memory, practicing short-term visual recall using grids, attention, doing high-focus multi-tracking like train routing, and vocabulary, sorting nuanced words by their intensity.
So, the ultimate takeaway from this explainer is a balanced 3-step approach. Step 1, definitely use AI for those massive efficiency and productivity gains at work. Step 2, deliberately schedule offline periods for your brain where you strictly don't lean on digital assistants. And Step 3, continually and independently practice your fundamental skills like writing, math, and critical thinking.
And all of this culminates in this absolute mic drop quote from the source material. We don't need to choose between the convenience of AI and our intelligence. I just love that. It perfectly sums up the argument. Technological progress is unstoppable, but if we are just a little bit deliberate, we absolutely do not have to sacrifice our cognitive sharpness to use it.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. How will you intentionally challenge your own brain tomorrow? Will you try doing the mental math at the grocery store checkout? Maybe navigate to a new spot without using Google Maps? Or actually write that really important email entirely from scratch? Thank you so much for joining me as we explored this material, and I'll catch you on the next one.